America, welcome into the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham, your host. We're brought to you by the Freedom Chamber, online at freedomchamber.net, the pro-American business network. If you own a business and you worried about your health care costs coming up in the next year, we have a solution. Dial in right now, freedomchamber.net. Rod Martin joins us, Dean Owen joins us, and Jeff Webb, a special guest on Today Inside the Business Pulse. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Thanks
for having us. Thanks for making the time. We've got a lot to dive into. And first, I just want to give you Jeff's background and bio, because I think it's important, because Jeff is one of those guys, he's the American dream. Started doing something he loved and turned it into something really powerful that's worldwide now. So, and Jeff, I had AI write your bio for me today. So I want to kind of show you what AI spits out. Jeff Webb, the founder of Varsity Spirit and the broader Varsity Brands global sports empire. Widely credited with modernizing cheerleading and transforming it into the athletic global activity it is today. He also currently serves as the president of the International Cheer Union, also responsible for bringing cheerleading to television through Varsity's 32-year relationship with ESPN. And Jeff has been on over 200 cheerleading broadcasts across the network. And I'm sure there's a lot more that AI didn't spit back out of me, but we're proud to have you on the show here and honored. So, Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And thanks for getting all the bad stuff out from AI before you read it.
You're welcome. You did the edits. So, gentlemen, we've got a lot to talk about. The shutdown is over. The last time we gathered, we thought that Chuck Schumer was not going to get the carrot. He was going to get the stick. That finally took place. We've had the Prince of Saudi Arabia joining President Trump at the White House today, offering up $1 trillion in investments towards the United States. I don't know what timeline that is over. But, Rod, I'd like to get your opinion, your thoughts on the shutdown finally coming to an end.
Well, it's about darn time, isn't it? I mean, it's just extraordinary that they would do this. It was a hostage taking. They literally held America's SNAP recipients, food stamp recipients, hungry American citizens hostage to get $1 trillion for free health care for illegal aliens, which is just mind-boggling. And no, that's not the only thing they did. They also wanted all these subsidies for a broken Obamacare system that is literally named the Affordable Care Act, but it doesn't work without more subsidies, which, by the way, when they were in power, they could have made permanent. They chose not to use it as a political thing now. So in every way, this was corrupt. In every way, this was wrong. And in every way, this failed. Utterly and totally, it failed politically, in that the polling is much more favorable to the Republicans on this than to the Democrats. It also failed from a policy perspective. They didn't get anything they were after. So now we have the government funded for a couple months, and there's time to pass the appropriations bills that the Budget Act of '74 requires, and we'll see where we go.
So what's the next step inside of the government as we move towards the midterms? Because it's all going to come down to who's playing what cards as you get back into the budget deal coming into 2026. Where's the next big shoe drop with that?
Well, if they use this time well, I think there's a real opportunity to pass some meaningful reform. One of the things that came out of this negotiation was that the comparatively moderate Democrats who did come over to our side and vote to end the shutdown expressed a degree of willingness to talk about reforming Obamacare. If you want to get rid of the deficit, just getting rid of Obamacare could save you a couple $1 trillion a year out of a $7 trillion budget. And that's money that can go straight to American citizens for their health care, which will be cheaper because Obamacare isn't artificially inflating it. And the truth is, what I've been saying now for 30 years applies. We talk about health savings accounts and different things. Well, there's a lot of reform you can do with that. One of those is to allow people to have a health savings account that isn't married to an insurance policy. That would be good. All of this stuff being portable would be good. Here's you an idea, as I've been saying for 3 decades. Just make every dollar you spend or save for your own health care or a family member's health care tax exempt. Just tax exempt. That's really what an HSA is. But HSAs come with all these restrictions. Phooey on that. If I want to put aside $10,000 in an account, or 20,000 or 50,000, to be able to take care of my family's health care and then negotiate on price with the actual provider instead of going through a middleman, how is that a bad thing for America? How does that not dramatically reduce costs? And we see that absolutely every day with cosmetic surgery. It's an area you're not going to get paid for by your insurance. The quality goes up every year. The price comes down every year. We should have that for Americans' health care broadly. There's an easy way to do it. Republicans need to, by the way, totally populist phrasing, make every dollar you save or spend on your health care tax exempt.
Dean, how's that play into your world, bud?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Rod's mentioned there about being able to negotiate. Of course, I've had a run in with my dog a couple times and been in an emergency room a couple times. And for a set of stitches, they wanted like $3,000. And because I'm a veteran, I have veterans care, they settled for $154. Those kind of price swings are insane. And the ability to negotiate, that's what the health sharing ministries are based on, and they work well. So there's no doubt that we've got to get out of this whole mess. You currently, I own a little restaurant that I lease out, and one of their biggest problems is they hire young people to help work the restaurant, and then they get pregnant, and then they get insurance, and then they get coverage. That's a little bit like saying, my house is on fire, let me go get insurance. Well, I am no fan of insurance companies. I am no fan whatsoever. But you can't do that to insurance companies and then not turn around and screw the people who are not screwing the insurance companies. It's a de facto. And to go back to something Rod mentioned earlier, I think I really want to hit on hard, is I would like for someone to tell me, someone tell me, how was the Democrats holding taxpayers hostage for SNAP benefits any different than what Hamas does with people in Gaza? How is it different? Somebody tell me the difference, because I can't find one.
Well, Jeff, I welcome your thoughts on what you've heard here with the shutdown, regulations, healthcare. You've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on in America.
Yeah. Well, I agree on the shutdown. It was really a head scratcher, because almost from the very beginning, it was like, what are they going to get out of this? Yeah. What do they really hope to accomplish here? And then you look at the people they were hurting. Many of those are their constituents. So it was like, this exercise in, self-destruction to some extent. I do think one thing that came out of that was, I think that probably all of our favorite, maybe it was Elizabeth Warren, saying that the one thing that may have come out that could help the Democrats, it's right back to where Rod was going with healthcare, is at least people are talking about it and talking about affordability. This has been on my radar for a long time. Having built a pretty good size, we had 6,000 people working for us at one time. And, we've all seen what's happened to insurance premiums across the board and since Obamacare. And I was at a conference, I won't name the nonprofit, a couple of years ago in Austin, Texas. And there was this breakout seminar on healthcare. And there was a couple of congressmen there, and one a Republican, and he was talking about the problems with Obamacare, and the Republicans had a better approach, because you have to have something, right? I think that's been the biggest exposure for the Republicans when it comes to health care. Different than what Rod said with a real specific proposal, they don't really have one, and so. I asked when they got finished, and I asked the Republican, I said, "Can you explain briefly the elevator speech about the healthcare program the Republicans had?" Well, 10 minutes later, when he gets finished, I'm going, "Well, the Democrats have the Affordable Care Act." So there's a big branding problem here. We all know it's not affordable care, but we can't boil down. Well, first of all, we can't really agree. Then we can't boil down what our program is going to be. And I do think this whole issue of affordability is it's bubbling up in housing because so many young people can't buy houses now. Healthcare. These are basic things for people in our society. And we have to get it addressed. It's a ticking time bomb. I mean, I have so many young people that I work with in the sport, and what we hear is true. They are struggling, and these are the ones I talk to are pretty bright young people, and they're having some big problems. And it doesn't help that they look up and Elon Musk is negotiating for $1 trillion employment contract, and then you've got the Bezos wedding in Venice with all of all of that. That when it's just kind of putting a finger in their eye all the time about older people, the boomers can afford to do all these things, and the stock market's gone up, and they can afford the health insurance. We can't afford it. So I think that's kind of a long way of saying I think the Democrats made a mistake, but I do think it's going to be important that we really address this affordability issue before the midterms. Because
how do you unwind it?
Yeah,
Jeff, how do you unwind it? You've got this huge ball of just muck that has been going on the last 15 years since Obamacare. How do you unwind this thing?
Well, it's not only Obamacare, it's the cost of housing. And,
right.
All of these things have been developed over years and years, and you're not going to turn a switch. Look, that's like looking at interest rates and saying, well, what are we going to do about the national debt? Well, when are we going to fix that? When are we going to quit paying interest on that debt that's sucking money out of potential mortgages, if you will, indirectly? Well, that's going to take a while. But the problem right now that I see is that we're not talking about it. I mean, it's even the national debt. Why are we not spending more time on this ticking time bomb of a national debt, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars? And it's going to come home to roost, and young people are starting to realize that it will, and they're the ones that are going to be caught at the end of the day. So I just think that the Republicans need to at least start talking about solutions and real solutions, and not just saying, well, this didn't work and that didn't work. What is going to work? National debt, a couple of ideas. I mean, people talk about kind of the windfall from oil and gas. Yes, we should be producing all the hydrocarbons we can, even though it may not work in your flying car, Dean. But all the hydrocarbons that we can, we should be exporting, and we should be using that money to help reduce our debt. We've got to look at the tariffs. I think are another way. I'm not sure the $2,000 check is such a great idea. Sounds good, but we're going to have to start really addressing these things, and we're going to have to be able to brand. We're going to have to be able to explain it succinctly. We're going to have to be able to brand it so people can get it quickly, and that the image that they get makes sense to them. Then we have to get going. There's not going to be an easy road, but we have to explain where we're going, how we're going to get there, and what the beneficial result will be for our citizens.
Let me rewind the conversation here, Rod, because you pretty much gave an elevator speech on what you should do with healthcare. Whose ear can you get that inside of and get that ball rolling, unless you already have?
Well, I am. I don't know if they'll run with the ball, but look, every dollar you save or spend on healthcare should be tax-free, period. Now, and I'm not saying the big hospital corporation, operates tax-free. That's not the point. When you spend money on your healthcare or your family's healthcare, you shouldn't be taxed on that dollar amount. It's super simple, and it's super populist. It's going to be super hard for Democrats to argue against that, but they will, which is a huge political win all around. And we could ride that horse all next year. Look, we spent all of the 2010s campaigning on repeal and replace Obamacare. And Donald Trump, and by the way, the Republicans voted for that every single year that they were not in power. And then Donald Trump comes in power, runs it up the flagpole 3 times in 2017. It went for it harder than any president has ever gone for anything. And it was Republicans, specifically John McCain, who stopped that from happening. So they've got no credibility on it, and they haven't talked about it since. We have to bring it back. Donald Trump is the perfect champion for this. And look, the same thing is true on housing affordability. Why are houses not affordable? Well, I can give you a really simple reason. We flooded the country with 10 million illegal aliens in a 4-year span, and they all had to have housing. That will run housing prices through the roof, as it would anything else. But the truth is, and I will admit, of course, the administration is not doing as good a job of articulating this as I would hope. I think they're articulating a lot of messages at once, and most of them are good, but this one needs a little more. The truth is, under Biden, inflation was higher than wage growth, which means even if you stay even if you move up, you're still behind every single year. Under Trump, in just 9 months' time, we have wage growth significantly outpacing inflation. That catches up in a reasonably short amount of time. And look, Reagan had a recession going into his first term. There was no getting around it. Volcker was raising interest rates to the moon. You're going to have a recession. They slayed inflation for 2 generations by doing what they did in those first 2 years. So, everybody's just gloom and doom about Reagan in 84. And then the boom kicks in. And that's what we're about to see. And you'll recall Reagan won 49 states in that election he was supposed to lose. In 2026, there's no reason that we couldn't see the result of this $18 trillion in new investment and the slaying of inflation and the reducing of prices across the board, especially if you combine it with serious initiatives on healthcare and housing. There is no reason you couldn't have such a boom underway that we sweep the midterms. And that's what we have to do. And by the way, Newt Gingrich was on Fox just the other day making exactly that case. This is what has to happen.
And one of the things, thinking about how this president is playing 3D chess and the left is playing checkers, the idea of putting out $2,000, in and of itself, I'm not a big fan, but giving it the choice of Obamacare subsidies or a $2,000 check is brilliant. Now that people are going to go for that, you get and open up catastrophic care plans for young people because that's all they want, and that's at least a piece of it. But also, I noticed from what I'm reading, people on SNAP benefits are going to have to reapply, and from what we're seeing, it looks like about 40% of that is fraudulent. So who's actually going to lose out here? It's the people that are getting those benefits and shouldn't. And we're also doing something else. That demographic is largely what we need to come into the labor force. I jokingly made a joke here a little while ago. I was a little bit late because I spent 28 minutes in a drive-thru at Burger King. Well, that's a staffing issue. Well, who's the staff that are going to take those jobs? The same people that are on the SNAP benefits. And if they're able-bodied, above 18, and not in school, then they're going to have to go to work. And it's not it's 80 hours a month, but you're going to have something kind of gainful employment. So we're talking about bringing people into the labor force. So there's a lot of moving parts going on here, and this president has mastered how to play each one of them in a way that benefits America. And to that, I have quite a bit of confidence and gratitude.
We're running up against the end of the show here. Jeff, I want to get your final thoughts on what we've talked about. I mean, it really starts down to the fundamentals of what made this country great. Workers doing good work, producing great products inside of America that make America strong, where we don't have to rely on foreign entities. But it's a global market nowadays, but we still have to reinforce what we do here in America. Am I wrong or right?
No, I think you're right. And I think Rod and Dave both made great points. And, the fact of the matter is, there's a lot to do. I mean, this president inherited problems across the board, geopolitically, financially, immigration, a lot of problems. And he's made, and the fact that you have someone with this kind of energy, which is unbelievable, what this guy does. It's really unbelievable. And he's never tired. He'll be happy to take on the line of the press corps anytime you want. But I think that what he's done again, and look what we're doing in South America. That's another one. It's been simmering for at least a generation. Now going back toward the leftists. So now we're going to have to take care of that again. but there's a lot to do. I do think, again, I go back that the one vulnerability, and this is not really his fault, this is going to be a messaging issue, that he's done such a great job on foreign affairs and creating these partnerships and all this money that Rod and Dean were talking about that will be coming in that will, you've got to believe, will make a difference down the road. It's just the short term, and the fact that he's dealing with the hostile press, and he's got to come up with a way to hit those pocketbook issues that are affecting young people. Because remember, they are the ones that really put him over the top. They helped put him over the top. There's no doubt about that. So it's important that while we're doing all those other things, we remember what we're doing that affects them as well.
It's keeping the plate spinning. I believe that 100%. Dean, your final thoughts, and then we'll bounce it up to Rod, and then we'll do our conclusion.
I can't add a whole lot more to this topic, but I'd like to touch on a different topic for just a moment. Here a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the shutdown and would it actually get SNAP benefits? And Rod and I said, yeah, we think we're going to lose it and go past that. And that eventually after the election, then Chuck Schumer would get the 7 or 8, 9 Democrats he needed that were in safe districts that are not run for election or something, quietly get them to go ahead and say, open up the government, so didn't look like his hands were on it. That is exactly what happened. We go back into April when everyone's screaming bloody murder tariffs was going to end the world and destroy America and destroy our economy. And Trump was an isolationist. And by him being rough on our allies, that they were going to go do something different. Now he's made them stronger. Now he's made them actual equal partners, or they will be militarily. So, and I don't say that to pull our chain, but I do say that to how much filth and garbage are you getting off the lamestream media? And why would you let any of that filth get in your head? Because Rod and I and Chuck and Freedom Chamber, all of us, we've proven time and again there is a voice of truth and reason here, or we do have an agenda. It's to get our members information they can use, they can count on, they can rely on, so they can go out and build God's kingdom and their kingdom here.
Rod, your final thought, bud.
Yeah, if you're going to pat us on the back, I might as well join you. We've been nailing it. I mean, what is this, episode 22?
Yes, sir.
I don't think we've called anything wrong yet. That's got to be some kind of world record or something. So, yes, the Freedom Chamber is extremely valuable to its members, if only for that. And it's not just that. So everybody needs to join the Freedom Chamber and get all the benefits out of it they possibly can. And also, as long as we're patting everybody on the back, I'll pat me on the back. Come to rodmartin.org. We do daily geopolitical analysis every single day that Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. We've got a video clip to prove it. It's amazing, rodmartin.org. And we'll get you even more depth on everything we just discussed.
It's in my inbox at least once or twice a day. Thank you, Rod. Dean, where can people find you? oncpa.com. And from a CPA, guy with a master's degree in taxation, personal financial specialist, guy the magazine calls us one of the top 150 in the nation. Rod put out a tax update guide for the new tax laws, and they're amazing. Get on his site and get those guides. They'll save you some money. Fantastic. Jeff, how can people connect with you?
Jeff at humanevents.com.
Absolutely awesome. And if you're a business owner and you're watching this and you're freaking out about what healthcare's costs are going to look like in 2026, the Freedom Chamber has an option for you to explore. I highly recommend you log in right now, freedomchamber.net, and explore the healthcare options we've put together for businesses in America. Rod, Dean, and Jeff, this has been epic. It's been awesome. And I appreciate everything you guys do. And this has been the Business Pulse.
Hey, the Freedom Chamber is amazing. I'm so glad that we get to be here on the Freedom Chamber's Business Pulse. This is an organization you should support. It's an organization of which you should be a member. The Freedom Chamber is getting important things done in this country. And honestly, we need spaces for people who believe the sorts of things that if you're watching this, you probably do. We have gone through this extended period of not just canceling individuals, but just boycotting businesses and doing terrible things, debanking. Nigel Farage, who is likely to be the next prime minister of the United Kingdom, was actually debanked by all the major banks in the United Kingdom. And of course that happens here, and we get de-insured and all these terrible things. The Freedom Chamber is fighting for you. The Freedom Chamber is here to make sure that you're protected, that your values matter, they count, and they're in the public square. So I encourage everybody to join the Freedom Chamber.